Hey guys, today we're going to do a lesson on sweep picking. Now, there's two things to keep in mind when you're learning how to sweep pick. One, it's not easy, and two, it does take a lot of time and practice to get it right. So we're going to go through a couple of exercises today in phases. I'm going to post a link to the exercise itself so that way you can download it and have the full exercise sheet, and then I'm also going to post little snippets of the exercise in the video itself so that you know exactly what I'm referring to. First set of exercises is just going to be trying to help understand and master the technique, and then the second set of exercises is to start applying it to real arpeggios that you can start using on the guitar. I went ahead and wrote out a lot of arpeggios in G major so that you have a variety of material to practice, and again, I have that linked in the description below. So right off the bat, if you've ever seen anyone sweep pick, the motion that they're doing is very fluid. They're dragging their pick up and down across the strings, as opposed to doing any quick up and down motions that you see with pretty much any other kind of picking technique. The first exercise that we're going to do is just to practice this motion, but before I do that, I want to describe the picking pattern that we're going to be using, and it's very straightforward. We're going to start on the fourth string, and we're going to drag the pick all the way through to the first string. So you're just dragging that pick all the way through those four strings. And then we're going to stop at the end and we're going to come back down those four strings in reverse. So again, I'm hitting all four strings. I'm not only hitting the top string once and the bottom string once, I'm hitting them twice as I go through. So on the way up, I'm going, and then I'm going back down. So I'm hitting 8 notes total when I do the full pattern. What we're going to be doing with this hand, 5th fret on the 4th string, then I'm going to go 6th fret on the 3rd string, 7th fret on the 2nd string, and then finally 8th fret on the 1st string. So it's going to sound like this. And then when I'm going to start going back the other direction, I'm switching and I'm putting my pointer finger on the 5th fret instead. So. And then I'm going to go back down the other way, where when I say the other way, I basically just mean I'm reversing the pattern. So I'm now doing the 5th fret on the high string, and then I'm going to do the 6th fret on the 2nd string, the 7th fret on the 3rd string, and then finally the 8th fret on the 4th string. And I'm going to go all the way back down that same way. So starting at the top, I'm going to go. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to slide up a half step, and I'm going to do, instead, I'm going to go up now. Starting with my pinky finger on the 9th fret, then I'm going to hit the 8th fret on the 3rd string, then I'm going to hit the 7th fret on the 2nd string, and then the 6th fret on the 1st string. So this pattern, again, is just the same one that I did before, just my fingers are in a reverse order. And now I'm going to go up to the 9th fret with my pinky, and this is going to be where I'm going to start the pattern in the reverse direction. And again, I'm just going to go reverse the pattern in my fingers and go down the other direction. So, and then again, I'm going to slide up one more time, and I'm going to repeat that same pattern. And then again, switch back and do the same pattern down. And then finally, when you get around the 11th fret with your pinky, then you can start to finish the pattern and start sliding back down. Right back up, and you can go right back down. You can keep doing that in a loop. And you also don't have to stop here on the 11th fret. That's just a good spot to stop and start. You can keep going up and down the neck as much as you want. As you do this exercise, step one is we need to have our metronome, and we need to set it at a very moderately slow tempo. You want to feel like you can comfortably do the exercise. And honestly, you want to have it at a tempo that if you weren't sweep picking, you could still do it at. So when I say if I wasn't sweep picking, you could technically kind of do a non-fluid motion with this picking, and I could pick each note like this. And you see how my hand kind of jerks each time I do that is because I'm not dragging my hand through if I do that. I'm plucking each individual note. If you're doing it too slow, it's really difficult to get the fluidity just because you're moving your hand at such a slow rate. It's hard to get it so that you're hitting the strings in time. You want to kind of find a moderate tempo that's not so slow that you can't get the timing right, but that's not so fast that you feel like you're jumping around trying to hit the notes in time. And then you just want to focus on dragging your right hand up and down while you're doing that exercise and just try to get it as fluid as possible and spend as much time as you need. You literally can't spend too much time doing this. And the more you speed up the metronome, you just want to do it in small increments, just a few beats at a time. Just make it so it's just slowly, faster and faster, and just make sure that it feels nice and comfortable and that you don't feel rushed. The next thing is you want to make sure that you're relaxing. If you're not relaxing, it just makes the whole technique harder. Your muscle seize up a little bit, and it just feels like that you're fighting yourself. If you relax, it'll make that fluid motion a lot easier. So that's kind of the basics behind sweep picking. That's how the technique works, and that's a really good exercise to start developing the technique. That's the exercise that my guitar teacher gave me when I was learning sweep picking, and I found it to be extremely helpful. And in fact, the thing that really made a big difference for sweep picking for me was when I finally sat down with a metronome and really focused on fluidity. Up until that point, I learned a lot of patterns, and some of those patterns I'm about to show you, and I'd learned how to do a lot of arpeggios, but my sweep picking just wasn't fluid. So I couldn't get the speed, and I couldn't get the articulation and clarity that I needed on my sweeps. So now I'm going to go through what I call your basic 5-string 2-octave arpeggios. So for this C major arpeggio, we are starting on the 5th fret, on the 3rd fret on the 5th string, and that's going to be our C note. And then the next note we're going to hit it with our pinky. We're going to hit the 7th fret again on the 5th string, and that's going to be our E. And then next we're going to go up to the 4th string, and we're going to hit the 5th fret on the 4th string. And then this finger is going to kind of do a bar, and I'm going to go back to this and talk about this in a little bit more detail in a second. But this finger is going to do a bar for the next 3 notes, and so it's going to be the 5th fret on the 4th string, 3rd string, and 2nd string. And then finally I'm going to come up to the 3rd fret on the 1st string, and then I'm going to play the, and that's my G, and then I'm going to come up again to the C here to complete my 2nd octave. And then I'm going to go back down to this G. We're going to be barring these 3 notes, the 5th fret on the 2nd string, 3rd string, and 4th string. And then we're going to come back down with our pinky and put the 7th fret on the 5th string. And then finally, we're going to go back down to the 3rd fret on the 5th string. So I'm going to start on the 3rd fret on the 5th string. And there's 2 ways you can do this. You can either start here and do a hammer on, or you can pluck both notes. And it's good to practice both ways just because there are different patterns, and if you're not used to doing it one way and you have to do it the other way, it might trip you up just a little bit. But okay, so we're going to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and pluck to both for right now. And then we're going to start barring this on the 5th fret. Now here's the trick. You kind of have to roll this finger as you go through these 3 notes, because you only want to play 1 note at a time. Because if you left this finger barred, you'd end up just playing all 3 notes. And if you're trying to do that, great. But usually with sweep picking, you're trying to just play 1 note at a time. So you kind of need to roll that finger. And what that'll do is you lift this off, that'll mute that string, and you'll start to fret the next string. So you got to get that, you got to practice that rolling action. And again, this is why it's good to do that other exercise first and get the sweep picking technique down, and then come over here because you're going to have other things that you have to focus on, like rolling your finger. So we're going to start at the beginning again, starting on the C here. Keep going up to this G. And again, I'm going to pluck all these notes. And then we're going to keep coming back down. Same way, we got to roll in reverse this time though. And that's how we do that arpeggio. You'll want to turn on the click again, and you'll want to practice this really, really slow over and over. Basically just keep practicing until it's really smooth and it's easy for you, and that's a good way of knowing whether you've practiced something enough. That's kind of step 1, is getting to learn that arpeggio. Now I'm going to very quickly go through the 2nd and 3rd inversions. So the 2nd inversion is I'm going to shift up, and I'm going to start on the 2nd note of that first arpeggio. So first I played C, then I played E, then I played G. Now I'm going to play this E, then I'm going to play the G next, and then I'm going to play the C. So I'm just basically changing the order of the notes by taking the first note and moving it up an octave, and then now I have an inversion. So this is going to be the first inversion pattern, and I'm not going to go into as much detail about this. I'm going to post the tabs, and I'm going to also post a little snippet so you can see it right here. But that's also a C arpeggio. So this is C. And then there's another inversion. It's called 2nd inversion. And again, I'm going to start at the next note up. And this time I'm going to start on the G, and then I'm going to play the C, and then finally the E. So it just changes the order of the notes one more time. And again, those are all C. One exercise that I like to do to help understand and connect these patterns is to play each inversion one after the other. So I'll show you what I mean. So I'm starting with the first one, or the root arpeggio. And And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, instead of coming back down to the G, I'm going to very quickly replace my pinky with my pointer finger here and play this E again. And I'm going to do this first inversion. And then again, I'm going to replace my ring finger with my pointer finger and then do the second inversion. A lot of times if I'm practicing this, I'll complete the arpeggio and go back up and just slide back up to the C because it's kind of fun. Just to do that one more time, so I'm starting in the root arpeggio. And I just find that to be a nice, fluid little exercise that helps build up your sweep picking. It helps connect your patterns. And one other thing that it does is it helps your shifting, which in my opinion is a really important skill because sometimes you want to play something and there's just not an easy way to play it where you are. But if you quickly can shift up, there's a nice, clean, easy way to play something in a different part of the neck. So those were the C major 5-string 2-octave arpeggios in the root, first, and second inversion. And one thing I like about these 5-string 2-octave arpeggios is I can convert them to 3-string 1-octave arpeggios just by taking the top 3 strings. So for this one, I start on the G here instead of the G here, and I just play the top 3 strings of that pattern. And it's the same thing with those other 2 inversions I showed you. You just take the top 3 strings and you have a 1-octave arpeggio. And that's why I like some of these larger sweep picking patterns is you can actually break them up into little sub patterns and steal those and use those for whatever you want to as well. So you can take any of these 5-string 2-octave arpeggios and you can break them up into any chunk that's useful to whatever you happen to be working on right now. That's the beauty of these exercises. They don't have to be used in the form that I provide to you. You can make tweaks to them to make them more useful to whatever you happen to be working on. That wraps up the last exercise that I had for today. So the first thing we went through was just understanding and mastering the sweep picking technique. Then we started applying that to a basic arpeggio, and then we started adding more arpeggios and started trying to connect those together. And that can help break us out of the monotony and make the practice a little bit more fun and entertaining. I think that's a good starting point for sweep picking. If you have any questions, please just drop them in the comments. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If not, I'll see you in the next video.